Now joining us at Rebel headquarters, the legendary Alison Hartson. Or already somewhat legendary, potential for enormous legendary status if you defeat Dianne Feinstein.
Yes.
One of the biggest corporate Democrats there is. So
certainly.
I want to ask you about how your campaign is going since the launch. But before we do that, I'd like to take this opportunity to let people know about Dianne Feinstein's record, which I'm always amazed by. So if you didn't know, California has a senator that fervently argues for the death penalty and has used it in campaign, has mocked progressives in campaign ads, like they're against the death penalty. 4% of the people on death row historically have been innocent, at least. Those are the ones at least that we let go. So we just killed them. So that's your so-called Democratic senator from California. She voted for Bush's tax cuts. She voted for Bush's Iraq war. She's an absolute disaster. On the other hand, Alison, you are very progressive. Some will say, well, no, we need to do a half measure. Somewhere between Feinstein, who's very conservative, and you, who's an actual progressive. Why don't we just go middle of the road and have another politician who we can beg to be progressive?
No, well, look, we've seen how this plays out. Every single time that happens, somebody who's middle of the road continues to be pushed more and more center, more and more right. Somebody who's middle of the road does the same thing that a conservative Democrat does, which is take money from corporations and super PACs. And that tells us every single time which way they're going to vote.
Well, that was the legendary moment where, I've used legendary a lot now, where Feinstein comes out in a town hall and says, I'm not ready for Medicare for all at this stage. Do you think she's gonna be ready at another stage?
If she doesn't get it by now, obviously not, no.
Right, and then a week later she goes and does a fundraiser with insurance companies and healthcare companies.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder why she thinks we're not ready for Medicare for all. I can't quite tell.
Right.
So Alison, you launched your campaign on the Young Turks, and you raised a good amount of money, got off to a really strong start. You've got a lot of progressives in California that have now rallied to your cause. But what else is going on in the campaign? Because if people can't see every day what you're doing, it's an interesting question. What does a candidate do all day?
Yeah, how do campaigns work? Well, let me tell you, we've been extremely busy. We've raised $250,000. And with that, we are building our staff, which means we're then able to build the infrastructure that keeps a campaign going, which allows us also to provide the support that we need for our volunteers who are really going to carry this campaign. And so at this moment, we are getting ready to launch house parties across the state during the weekend of January 13th and 14th. And actually, obviously there's people outside of California watching right now. We are launching house parties for all Justice Democrats throughout the entire country on that same weekend of January 13th and 14th.
Yeah, let me give you guys a quick link to that. I haven't talked about that on air yet, but I will probably tomorrow. It's justdemocrats.com/WOFA. Weekend of action, okay? Weekend of action. Get off your sofa, be part of WOFA. Okay.
Did you just come up with that?
Earlier today. So look, because the most important thing is volunteering. So if you can, give your time. If you can't give your time, then donate. So, or ideally both. Let me show you the links, graphic one for Alison. So you can find out more about our campaign through our website. You can volunteer through the very logical link of AlisonHartson.com/volunteer. You can donate through justdemocrats.com/Alison2018. And remember, all these links are always in the description box on YouTube. You can click the eye on the right corner of your screen on YouTube to get the links. And on Facebook, we'll have it in the comment section. So, what do they volunteer on January 13th and 14th? What are they doing? Who are they calling?
Well, there are a couple different options. You can either host a house party where you're phone banking to call other people throughout the state and make sure that they know who I am or whichever Justice Democrat you're supporting in whatever state you live in. We can also canvas, so you can go knocking on doors and talking to people in your very own neighborhood. You can, and it being a house party, so bring other people to help knock on doors with you. And if you've never done either of those before, and even if you have, we have the volunteers and the staff right now who are going to train everybody who has a house party.
And if anyone knows how to train volunteers, it's Alison. She worked as a teacher for 10 years in Orange County, but then in Wolfpack to get money out of politics for 5 years. And here in California, you organize over 1,000 volunteers to pass HJR 1 to get money out of politics.
That's right, yes. So we do know how to do it, and it's gonna be fun, and it's gonna be so important. And the other thing we're doing right now, specifically with my campaign, is we have a goal of raising another $250,000 by the end of the year. And that's going to allow me to do a 58 county travel where I'm gonna go to every single county. I wanna talk to as many people as possible, find out what's happening in their counties, find out what's important to them. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, look, that's the one part I do envy, because I don't envy all the other stuff you got to do, the budgeting and the hiring people, and it's a lot of work behind the scenes. But I like the idea of going to the different counties.
Me too.
So that's fun.
People tell me, they're like, you know, get ready, you're gonna be exhausted, it's gonna be stressful. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what we should be doing as representatives and as candidates. So.
And at Wolfpack, you did it across the country. Yeah, so just one state's kind of easy by comparison.
It will be, I think.
By the way, I'm going to start making calls for Alison as early as this week. I already put it on my schedule for Wednesday.
Oh, okay? Thank you.
So this is how we win. We do it together. All right, now let's talk about some of the issues of the day. The GOP just passed their tax bill, and it appears to have decent size cuts for the rich and for corporations. I know that comes as a huge shock to you, Alison, but not too much for the middle class. In fact, everyone making under $75,000 10 years from now will get tax increases. Everyone. So they raise your taxes to pay for the tax cuts for the rich. So first of all, what's your take on the tax policy the Republicans just passed?
I consider this a tax scam. And what it is a redistribution of income from the poor to the rich. And I honestly cannot believe that in 2017, on one hand, I can't believe that in 2017 we're having this conversation. And on the other hand, I can completely believe it, and I'll explain what I mean by that. We know by now, decade after decade, we have proven, it's not theoretical, we know that trickle-down economics defies gravity. Yet we continue to do it.
Yeah.
Corporate welfare is used to buy back stock and to reward CEOs. It is not used to build new businesses and to hire new employees on our shores. Corporate welfare is, our CEOs are sitting on trillions of dollars of corporate welfare. Meanwhile, they complain about the deficit and they argue that we don't have enough money to fund programs that lift people out of poverty and allow people to give back to their communities and make our communities prosperous, thriving, healthy, safe. It's atrocious. But like I was saying, on the other hand, I can believe we're having this conversation because look at who's in Congress. It's people who have personal wealth to be able to afford to run for Congress, and people who are propped up by the corporations that are directly benefiting from this tax scam.
Well, we just did a story today on the show about how they put in one last loophole at the end that wasn't in the House or the Senate version, and it helps people with companies that have low amount of staff but hold a lot of real estate. That would be Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, and his family. It would be 13 of the Republican congressmen who worked on that bill, and Bob Corker, the one guy who switched his vote after he got a personal tax break for his real estate companies. It's outrageous. So let me ask you a harder question, Alison, which is, okay, but Feinstein, she voted for the Bush tax cuts, she voted to get rid of the estate tax before, but because of the optics of this situation, she didn't want to seem like she was voting for Donald Trump. So she now reversed her position and voted against the estate taxes and everything else, estate tax cut in this bill. So what would you have done differently then?
I would have absolutely fought against this. What we have to do in order to fight against these kinds of tax scams is to provide another opportunity, another option. Right now, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have just released a video and an article that provides an option and another opportunity. And when we do that and we educate the public on other options, it can help to put pressure on Congress to say, no, I want you to do this instead. I wish it would have been done a lot sooner, but sometimes this is the way things work. But I think that is realistic given the situation we're in. Obviously, our hands are tied when you have a triple threat with Republicans controlling both houses and the executive. But like you said, with Dianne Feinstein, this is going to be an easy vote for her because she knows we're coming after her.
And she also knows the tax cuts I actually want, because I voted for him before, I'm going to get anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to blame the Republicans for it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. She can vote against it and still get what she wants.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
All right, Alison, I also want to ask you about net neutrality. So FCC just voted to kill it. What's your take on that?
This is an attack on our freedom of speech, our freedom of innovation and true competition on the internet. The way that this is going to hamstring small businesses from being able to have their own websites and benefit in the ways that businesses do on the internet is atrocious. We need antitrust laws for the internet as well, and this is going to take that away. But also, I'm very concerned about censorship and the ability to slow down our websites if those websites don't personally bring profit to the corporations that are benefiting through the ISPs. And it's very worrisome to me. And of course, it's going to target our most needy communities.
I never thought about it this way. I always thought about it in terms of they would slow down sites that are competitive with them, sites that they could hold up for a huge amount of money, like Netflix, et cetera. And anything they might disagree with politically, they could at some point go after. But they could also just go after politicians' websites that aren't going to vote for them. So if you've got a corporate Democrat or a Republican, you've got a perfectly lovely website. You go to AlisonHartson.com. Oh, sorry, we're still loading because Alison's not going to vote with us.
I mean, one of our biggest strategies is to use the internet to our advantage for our campaigns because we don't have the money to compete against the $10 million plus that Dianne Feinstein and others are going to be putting into the race. And we know that people don't vote any longer based on television and based on mailers. It's through the internet. And they know this. And anybody who thinks that they're not going to do this, really, we're all going to say, I told you so.
Yeah. Well, we're going to say buffering, told.
Yes.
Buffering, you so.
Yes.
All right, listen, before they take over the internet and destroy it, you can still use it. So go to Alison's website. Most important thing is volunteer because she's led a volunteer army before and General Hartson has stepped up to the plate again to lead it one more time. And of course donate because the next $250,000 is used to hire the people who are her staff that can turn this into a campaign that has an excellent chance of winning. And wouldn't it be lovely to have a progressive senator from California rather than a corporate one? All right, Alison Hartson, thank you for joining us on Rebel Headquarters.
Thanks, Cenk.